We're going to be looking at the book of Revelation. And this is something that I've wanted to share with you, and I think that you'll find it to be extremely interesting and exciting. So once again, to all of you, all over the country, I know from San Francisco to Louisiana to Montana down to Florida and wherever you may be, thank you for being a part of this. And we really are excited having you as part of the church, and we consider you because you're sharing the services with us. And what we do before we start is our meditational purpose is not simply transcendental meditation so that we reach some kind of a relaxation mode, and I don't really have any problems with that. But we're here for a much more important thing, and that is to climb the stairs to the upper room within ourselves and there receive the mind of Christ. The Moral Bible, you're on page 238 in those little Bibles, in the New Testament, all the way back to the end of it, page 238. And now we're talking about the movement into a higher consciousness. We're talking about God's psychology. We're talking about your life. And remember, this being shrouded in deep mysticism. The ancient masters did everything possible to hide these things from whom they called the profane, people who would misuse. Plato was one of those who knew so deeply of these things, as were many other enlightened intellectuals of kind of the more modern era, talking about Plato. And so when you look at these things, you see great symbolisms of the East. You see great allegorical phrases, numerology, all of these strange things, astrology, all of this business, put together for one purpose, to convey a mysterious truth about your mind. Your mind. Because once you take that mind of yours and allow it to be plugged back to the mind of God, then heaven has occurred and all has changed. It is absolutely impossible and quite ludicrous to think of going anywhere and changing anything and doing anything as long as we allow the minds that are carnal within us to rule our lives. As I said this morning, everybody wants to go to heaven, but let us not forget that Adam and Eve were there. And what good did it do? And let us not forget that Lucifer walked among the stars in the highest heaven. And what good did it do him? Why? Because both looked down, were tempted, and their egos overwhelmed the heavenly aspects of God. And it'll happen all the time. So you have to work then in understanding that part of them that led them to fall has to be overwhelmed, and it can be overwhelmed, and it must be overwhelmed through meditation. Let's take a look at it. Revelation chapter 20 and verse 2. Well, first of all, the angel came down and laid hold on the dragon, the old serpent, so forth and so on, and cast him in, and he laid hold on the dragon, Revelation 22, the old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, which we covered last week, and bound him 1,000 years. This is one of the great mysteries. Okay? Look at it. The devil is bound 1,000 years. Do you know what you're looking at? Meditation. Nothing else. Meditation. Come on with me, I'll show you. The devil is bound 1,000 years. One is God. Two is God's unlimited and infinite nothingness. Satan is bound when God and you are one in God's unlimited and endless and eternal nothingness, nirvana. Why years? What do you mean 1,000? It says 1,000 years. A year is a segment of 12. And it's the 12 sympathetic nerve systems of the human body, and it's the 12 aspects of the human brain, 6 on the left hand, 6 on the right side. That's why 12, that's why years is used. It symbolizes that which is the 12 or the ruling aspects of your very life. Look at the code. You broke the code. You talk about the Japanese code during World War II. Look at the code. Satan is bound 1,000 years simply means that when God and his infinite nothingness takes control within you, which is out of the 12, there is no any longer fear of Satan. He has been done with. Do you honestly think, I mean, after all, you know doggone well, it has nothing to do with 1,000 years, because the Bible says with God 1,000 years is like unto a day. So begin to try to understand mysticism. Begin to try to understand the way the ancients hid these things from the profane. And do you know they did such a tremendous job of it, because that's all you'll hear Christians talking about. Satan is going to be bound for 1,000 years. We're going to rule and reign with Christ. But then Satan's going to get out again. It says so. Going to roam around again. But when you see it begin to understand mystical numerology, you are looking at one of the most mystical books that's ever been printed on a page, the book of Revelation. Eastern mysticism coming out of places such as the Kabbalah and other ancient writings. And it's all coded language, and it simply means number one is God, number 0 is his infinite nothingness, God, his absolute nothingness, nirvana. Within you, that 12 aspects of you, and Satan then is bound. That which is the devil, that which is the lower mind, that which is the thoughts of the lower mind are bound. Now look what we have in Revelation 23. And cast him into the bottomless pit. The bottomless pit is what? Desires, our endless desires. Once you get that car that you said, no, if I only get this car, that's the only thing I'll ever want for the rest of my life. I'll never want again. God, just let me have this car. And then you got the car, and all of a sudden the car didn't look quite as good as Dave's new car. You know, 6 months into that car, what are we doing? I don't know. I don't know if I made a mistake with getting this. I really, it just doesn't have the pickup. Dave's car's got overdrive and underdrive, and you're disgusted with it. Go up into your attics. You want to see the bottomless pit? Go up into your attics and look through the endless mounds of desires, things that you just had to have, which are in cardboard boxes and covered over with all creepy and crawling things up there. And yet, at one time, each one of those things was something I had to have. There's no end to it. I've got to have this. I've got to have that. We reached this church. This is it. What more could we possibly want? Nothing. Look at, now we got a television camera. And then you got a television camera, you got to have recording decks. And now somebody's talking about editing this into the, you're going to have 3/4 inch recording decks because you only got 1/2 inch. And now they got so many people, we got to have 3 and 5 and 6 and all of this stuff, and it never ends. Goes on and on and on. And one day, all of that stuff, look at how nice that camera is, and all the, one day, you know what they'll be? In a corner somewhere, all junk. Got to have them. And so the key to the bottomless pit, this thing, it means when God and his absolute nothingness in meditation has control over those 12 aspects of you, this endless drive, this desire to have and get and be and do and all of these things is subdued. And look what it says here. Cast him into the bottomless pit and shut him up, set a seal upon him that he should deceive the nations no more. In every human, he's going through the trees here. In every human being, there are 2 countries, 2 nations, okay? I know, Elliot, this is difficult, but there are 2 nations, 2 countries. Once again, look at the mysticism. There's a high country. There's a low country. Or as the Bible puts it, there's the mountain, hallelujah, and there's the desert. Okay? In each one of you, there are 2 nations. There's the high nation, and there's the... Do you know what the name of God in Japan is? In Japanese, the name of God? The name of God in Japanese is Kami. K-A-M-I. You know what it is? It's a mountain town. It's a mountain town. The name of the devil in Japanese is, let me get back, Shimo. S-H-I-M-O. And I would guess you would understand. It's a lowland, down in the lowlands. Symbolisms. And so here it says, because you have come into that meditation and into that nothingness, there will be no opportunity for this lower mind to deceive you any further. So when the Bible speaks of deceiving the nations, it's referring to the aspects of the human mind. And what are the aspects of the human mind deceived by thought? Thought. How many times have you done something and said, oh, brother, I don't know what the heck I was thinking of. I don't know why I did that, Al. I thought it would work out, when I come over and I tried to fix your lawnmower that time, yeah, I didn't know, yeah, that'll be the day, is right. And the fire, thank God it didn't spread to the bathroom, but I mean, I don't know what I was thinking of. How many times, do we have ideas that, oh man, but we're deceived by our own thoughts. And that's what God is saying here. When you live in that 1,000 years with God, the 12 aspects of you, look, right at the center of your abdomen is the solar plexus. It is the center of your life. It is the Son of Man, and it is surrounded by 12 sympathetic nerve systems in the same way that the sun is surrounded by the 12 signs of the zodiac, the same way that Jesus was surrounded by the 12 disciples. And so here then you find out that there will no longer be this deception to those 12 aspects of your life. Now, look at here in Revelation 2:3. The devil is put in the bottomless pit. That's physical desire. That's your own mind. And it says, and shut him up. Okay? He is shut up in that bottomless pit. Okay? Shut up. All right. Now, when we think of this, what we're thinking and what we're seeing, and if you're with me seeing this, is because you have come, and say you come here on Tuesday night and you come into meditation, you lift yourself above those thoughts which are constantly after you. You shut up those thoughts. They are shut down. They're pushed down. All of that bottomless pit of desire is shut down. For however short it may be, they're shut down. Closed down. In other words, you've put the lid on them. Let's take a look, if you would, with me to page 5 in your New Testament. Not all the way back to the beginning of the Bible, but page 5 in the New Testament, and go to Matthew. Okay, the book of Matthew. That's page 5 in your New Testament. Now, go to Matthew chapter 6. Matthew chapter 6. You with me? Now, you should get Bibles out there, too. See, some folks have told me that they're having Bible studies with these things and so forth, and it's good to do that. You have some people over, take up a little offering here. No, I'm only kidding. No. Look what it says in Matthew 6:6. When you pray, enter your closet, and when you have shut the door, pray to your Father which is in secret. That's exactly what it's talking about. You shut up the devil. When you pray and enter the closet and shut the door, you're closing the door on the thoughts of the lower mind. You're closing down the thoughts of the lower mind. No longer is it available to you. You shut the door on the bottomless pit where the lower thoughts are kept at bay. Forget about the devil as a person. You are here, you are into meditation, and you reach this point of nirvana. You have lifted yourself above all of those thoughts. You have shut the door on all of those thoughts, and these thoughts are no longer there to bother you and to distress you. You're holding them down. Your immune system has an opportunity now to replenish itself and to get after those things that should be dealt with by your immune system. Okay? Okay. Now look at this, Revelation 20, verse 3. If you go back to where we were, page 238. Revelation 20, verse 3. And what does it say? Revelation 20, verse 3. Look, and they cast him into the bottomless pit, shut him up, and set a seal upon him. Now that seal is the stamp of authority. It is your certainty that God is in you, and the will of God is made certain to you. I want to read you something from one of the apocryphal books of the Bible. There's a lot of books of the Bible which never really made it in. And one of them is called The Acts of Judas Thomas. And from the Hymn of the Soul, from the book The Acts of Judas Thomas, it says, "And my letter was a letter which the king sealed with his right hand." I want my letter sealed by the king with his right hand. In other words, in that right hemisphere of the brain. As Jesus said, cast your energies to the right side. The seal will come from the right side. You'll walk out of this place, and if you walk into a mob of thousands telling you this is wrong, 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 you'll know one thing for sure: this is right. Because in spite of the mob, in spite of the television, in spite of whatever they may say, you have received that seal of authority and approval from within. And that's what's about. Because I can't convince you of this. It's ridiculous. Nobody, and you know, you're tough people now. Once you have exposed yourself to the higher mind, nobody can mislead you again. Never, ever, ever will you ever fall for that stuff again. It'll never happen. No way. Because you don't follow them anymore. You don't follow me, obviously. And I want you to. You follow the Christ who is within you. You follow the Christ who is within you. And that's where the beauty comes from. And that's where the authority comes from. And that's when you change. Now look at Revelation 23. That the mind, he should deceive the nations, and we learned that's your consciousness no more. Let me ask you something. You've come here, you've gone into meditation, you've experienced this, you've touched this higher realm of consciousness, you look at the Bible, you find that God is love, and he does not drop bombs on people. You find that Jesus is the Prince of Peace, he's not coming back in an atomic holocaust. You're not being deceived anymore with all of that nonsense. You're not being misled anymore with all of that nonsense. What is coming from within yourself. You can't even sit and listen to those guys anymore. They can't deceive you anymore. You see those guys on television, some guy says if you send $1,000 and you'll get healed, what do you want to do? You want to call the cops. Get this guy arrested. That's deceit, that's deception. Putting a price tag on God's touch onto a person, putting a price tag on it of money, of all the things. A wallet, money, as a price tag on God healing somebody. Disgusting. That's absolute pure filth, rot, and disgusting. And so you won't listen to it. Nobody would be able to deceive you anymore like that. Because you know that all blessings come from that higher place. What chance does a little baby have who is crippled? What chance does a little child in Africa have? What chance does a mother or a father have if they have no money? Do they have a Visa or a MasterCard that they can use like these guys get nowadays? That's deception. It is deception. And once you enter into meditation, your mind is so changed that you'll never be deceived by that anymore. You'll never listen to it anymore, and you won't. And it says in Revelation chapter 20, verses 3, that he should deceive the nations no more till the 1,000 years shall be fulfilled. And after that, he must be loosed a little season. What's that talking about? When we talk about the 1,000 years, what? What's the 1,000 years? The 1,000 years can occur here in a half hour when you're in a meditation. 1, you're with God. 2, you're in eternal nothingness inside of you, which is the 12. That's the 1,000 years. It happens in 10 seconds. It can happen in 15 minutes. And once that is fulfilled, what happens? You come down, you leave this place, he's let loose. He's let loose. But look what it says. For a little season. He's not the same one that he used to be. Because it used to be that the thoughts of the mind could grab you around the neck and hang on to you. Can't anymore. Can't anymore. Because once he grabs onto your ears or grabs onto the back of your neck with all of the thoughts that come into your mind, you run for your Kataro tape, you put it on, and boom, off you go into nirvana. And you leave him in a bag of dust sitting down in the gutter where he belongs. Sure. It says he must be loosed. Look what it says. That he must be loosed a little season. He's not the power near what he was. Those thoughts are not nearly the power against you that they were before. That's victory. That's what God was talking about, victory. Look at that for a little season. You see that? He should be loosed a little season. Let me write that on the board. I want you to look at that. Where are these crayons? Here they are. I need a crayon person. A little season. You should get so excited about hearing this stuff, you should jump right up and go right through one of these things. And you may. You just may. You keep coming here, you may. Because this is truth, and it's right at your hands. And you know it works. You know doggone well it works. And it's right here. And all you have to do is sit down and allow yourself to rise up into the place of nirvana. And I'm going to tell you something before we leave this place tonight. really shocking and beautiful. It's really going to make you excited. And I'm already there, so what? But for this season, see this? I want to look at the Upanishads of Hare Krishna. Listen to this. Listen to this, Hare Krishna. Brahman says to him, "Who are you?" And he shall answer, "I am a season, and a child of the seasons, sprung from the womb of endless space, the light of the year, the self of all that is." I love this next line. "What you are, that I am." Now listen. I am but a phase of the universal life and a child of the manifest cycles. I have sprung from the matrix and am born a spiritual germ in matter from the Virgin Mother. Isn't that beautiful? I am born from the Virgin Mother. Written 3,000 years before Jesus was born. Beautiful. And that makes me love and so tuned into Jesus because he was a continuation of the eternal Godhead that always was. I'm a season. And the season is simply a cycle during which the soul evolves to the higher realm. In the 12, don't you see? You got 12 months in a year. You got 12 ages in the universe. And inside of you, you got the 12, which is a season. Each is a season, each part of you. And it's a cycle in which you evolve inside of you in the same way that the universe evolves, in the same way that the 12 months go by. And there within you, each season evolves you higher and higher. And you are a season. And this loosening of the lower mind, but for a little season, nowhere will it pound on you and hold you captive as it has in the past. Let's take a look at Revelation 20 verse 4. "And I saw thrones, and they that sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them." Thrones is a direct reference from the Kabbalah. The only place it's used. Kabbalah. Jewish, ancient, desert people, rabbis who were spin-off from Buddhism. Okay. "I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them." The higher self, okay, is a throne. The throne is the Buddhic spirit of Atma. Atma is the mind of God. That's the king's temple in the pyramid, the mind of God. Buddha is God's love. Throne, Buddha. I saw thrones. Love. That beautiful love that comes when the right hemisphere opens up and pours forth into you the words of God. It's a... Go back into the Old Testament to page 621. Page 621 in the Old Testament. The rest of you go to Isaiah and go to the book of Isaiah at verse 66. Isaiah verse 66 and 621 in those little Bibles. Okay? And watch here what we got. And I'll kind of give you a chance to catch it. It's in the Old Testament. And if you're looking in your Old Testament in those little Bibles, it's page 621 at the top. Okay? Isaiah 66. Watch what it says. Verse 1. "Thus saith the Lord, the heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool." What does that mean? The heaven is his throne. The higher mind is the residence and the dwelling place of God. And the earth is his footstool. That part where his feet, the lowest part of God, touches is you. You're the earth. I'm the earth. Adam. See? And he touches us at the footstool, meaning that part of God that touches humankind, entering down into the lower realms of consciousness. And I love the next part. "Where is the house that you build me? Where's the place of my rest?" You know what rest means? Sabbath. You know what Sabbath means? 7. It's the 7th chakra. It's the crown chakra. It's the throne. the highest part in human consciousness. So Revelation 24 is a direct statement of the age of those who dwell in the higher mind. And I want you to notice something in Revelation 20, verse 4. Judgment is given to you. Revelation 20, verse 4. Judgment is given to you. Now, come with me for a second. In the human brain, and I'm not a, what do they call them, a brain ecologist or something like this, a brainologist or whatever they are, huh? Neurologist. All I know is there are 6 things on the right side and 6 things on the left side. There are 12. Just as the same way as the 12 sympathetic nerve systems. They are of the higher consciousness, okay? So God's eternal throne is in the higher mind of man, and through meditation, you lift yourself up into that throne. Watch this. Go to, in your New Testament, page 20. The rest of you go to the book of Matthew. Page 20. The rest of you go to the book of Matthew. All right? And we'll go to Matthew 19. And this is exciting. So I want you to get excited about this. You too out there. Half of you falling asleep on your couch. Sit up straight. Sitting on your couch. I see you out there falling asleep. So say, what is this? The husband's over there saying, how long are you going to watch that guy? Turn that thing off. I want to watch the ball game. Leave it on, Vera. Don't turn it off. God. Matthew 19, verse 28. Jesus says, I say unto you, that you which have followed me in the regeneration. Do you know what that means? Come on, let's jump up on the chair. You ready to go, Elliot? 1, 2, 3. You who have followed me in the new age is the regeneration. Have you followed him? Yes, you have. That's why you're sitting in the basement of this little place in Forked River. And that's why you're sitting in San Francisco or some other place watching us in this little basement in Forked River. Because we followed him in the new age. And look what he says will happen. When the Son of Man shall sit in the throne of his glory, when that which is the higher consciousness, the Christ within you is fulfilled, you shall sit upon the 12 thrones. You shall have dominion over the 12 aspects of yourself and judging the 12 tribes of Israel. And those are the 12 aspects of you. As you understand, and we've told you this before, it has nothing whatsoever to do with that which is Israel overseas. It has to do with that which is Israel in you. I-S, which is Isis, which is the spirit. Ra, which is the mind. And E-L, which is the God in you. You then will sit upon authority with Christ consciousness, and those 12 aspects of you, which are the fulfillment of Israel, spirit and mind together within you, then you will have judgment. Why? Because it says you will judge with righteous judgment. You will judge from the right side. You will understand. All of this is simply saying, if you will bring yourself into that 1,000 years, God and you in that eternal nothingness through meditation, these things will happen. And these things are happening for you. And those nerve systems of yours which are caused you such, we have somebody here. And a man who has had a cancer problem and was in remission. He was doing so wonderful, nothing bothering him, which is wonderful. He was into meditation, challenging this. All of a sudden, over the last 6 months or so, he has come into stress, terrible stress, because of family situations. Bang, the thing is back out. Remission is over. Bang, it's attacking him again. And so the connection between the remanifestation of these things in stress is so obvious. Take anybody. No, it's so frustrating that the sick people will not do what Jesus Christ says to do and shut it down and allow the immune system to rise into that bliss and let the immune system eavesdrop on your mind, hear nothingness so that it can set about to deal with the problem that you have. Most of the times the immune system eavesdrops on the minds and hears chaos and fear and strain and all of the things, and it can never take care of the diseases and the problems that we have. That's why Jesus said, take no thought for your life. What does he mean? Don't worry about your life? He said, no, take no thought and you'll have life. So you'll judge righteous judgment, for it will be from the right side. I love this next one. Let's go back to Revelation 20. I'm going to keep you just a teeny bit, but not too much more, but I want to get something to you before we pack it up tonight, okay? Let's go back to Revelation 20. And I love this one. Revelation 20, verse 4. And I saw thrones, and they that sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. We just covered that. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Jesus. Hallelujah! There you go! What are you thinking of? Do you think it's some honorable thing to have some screwball come down with an axe and cut your head off and say, well, I did it for Jesus? Forget it! Forget it. I don't know about you, Charlie, but my car is going to be in B for a boogie, and I'm gone. That's not what it's talking about. How many of you ever heard of Edgar Cayce? Edgar Cayce said that one of the most beautiful meditations, and let me tell you something else, and I'll say this right into the camera. Edgar Cayce has been blasphemed by the high priest and the religious. He was a wonderful, beautifully gifted man, gifted of the Spirit of God, who used all of these gifts to help people, and yet he is put down as some kind of an evil cult by those who should know better and don't know better. Sick. But they did the same thing to Buddha, and they did the same thing to the Lord Jesus Christ. But Edgar Cayce said one of the most beautiful meditations, and Joan did it, she tried it down in Cocoa Beach, is to take your head off by your mind and just visualize that you have no head and be out amongst the trees or the birds. And there, your head is what keeps you outside, it keeps everything outside from you. And when you take your head off and you get into this meditation, you're one with everything. Because there's nothing outside of you anymore. You, everything, just one, you're one with everything. Being beheaded is meditation above the mind where there is no human physical thought. Once you have taken and cut away the intellect of the mind, you are beheaded. That's what the whole story about John the Baptist is about. And you know what? When you come down here and you offer yourself into meditation and you raise up and you go Om or Nirvana or whatever you do, and you take yourself up into that higher place and there are no more thoughts of your mind, you are beheaded. Why? For the witness to Jesus, because Jesus said, you take away the key because you don't enter within yourself. Because Jesus says, take no thought. Because Jesus said, cast your net to the right side. Because Jesus said, if your eye be single, your body will fill with light. So we are beheaded for Jesus as a witness to him that what he said was of the new age, and we follow him into the regeneration of the new age, and we are one with him without a head. Without a head. Because I don't know about you, but it's this thing which gets me screwed up. As a witness to Jesus, for he instructed us to do this. Let me read you again from the Vendadad of Hare Krishna. You're going to love it. The 16th good land. Let me go over here. For those of you who are into breaking this code, mystical code, the 16th good land. How much are 1 and 6? There you go. Now you're with me. You're up to the 7th. The 16th good land was the land by the floods, the truth of God, of the Rangia, where people live without a head. You read that in the Vendadad of Hare Krishna. The 16th good land was the land by the floods of the Ranja, where people lived without a head. Meaning that you do not live dwelling in that which is the carnal mind of the self, but you live in the divine conscious experience of the Christ. So you live, in verse 20 and verse 4, you live and reign with Christ 1,000 years. In other words, you live with God, one in his eternal nothingness, nirvana, the spirit from no thing which brings you that 12 aspect of you totally into a oneness with the divine. Now I want to show you something. This is where I promised you something a little while ago, and I want to share it with you now, okay? And I will wrap it up. And those of you, stay tuned to the same tape, because we'll have an interesting studio teaching after this. Revelation 25. But the rest of the dead lived not again until the 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection. Let me show you something. Do you see that the rest of the dead lived not again. All right, keep your finger there. Go to page 147 in your little Bibles. We're done right after this one, folks. I promise you that. The rest of you come with me to the book of Romans. 147 in your little Bibles. The rest of you to the book of Romans. Romans 6, please. Romans 6. Okay? You with me? 100 in the New Testament, that's all the way towards the back of your book, page 147, because you have a, if you're not used to using this, you have 147 in the Old Testament in the beginning, then you have another 147 in the back part of the book, which is the New Testament. So we want to go to the 147 in the back part of the book, and that's Romans chapter 6. And now I want you to go with me to verse 13. Neither yield up your members as instruments of unrighteousness unto sin, but yield yourselves from God as those that are alive from the dead. Okay? Okay, now go from 147, go to page 179 in your little Bible, and you're in the book of Ephesians, and you go to Ephesians chapter 2, verse 5. So what it said here, the rest of the dead lived not again until the 1,000 years were finished. And right away you're thinking about people popping out of graves and all of that stuff. When that happens, I don't want to be here. I don't know about you, but if they start climbing out of these cemeteries here, Al, you and me are charting a 747 to Guam or somewhere. I don't want to be around for that. And that's not what it means, folks. That's bizarre behavior by superstition. Ephesians chapter 2, verse 5. Even when we were dead in sins, hath quickened us together with Christ. By grace you are saved. So what did we do then here? We're talking about being dead. Before you brought down that wall and entered into the right hemisphere via meditation, you're dead. You are alive physically, but there is no spiritual umbilical cord attached to you whatsoever. You're dead. What this is saying here, now let's come back with me because you kept your finger there in Revelation 20, verse 5, and I want to show you something. Okay? Revelation 20, verse 5. Okay. What this is saying here is the rest of the dead. See, in other words, this is talking about you and what has happened to you. You've come into God, into nothingness, for the 12 aspects, and you have risen from the lower to the higher. That's the first resurrection. But the rest of the dead who have not entered into God and nothingness in the 12 aspects, okay, the rest of the dead will never, okay, live not again until this is finished. In other words, until a person who is without will enter within and join with God in this eternal nothingness to the 12 aspects of they will never rise in resurrection. They will never live again because they are dwelling in death. They are dwelling in the death of the carnal mind. And what he is saying in this book, and that is those people who have not discovered that it is meditation, that it is nirvana, that it is chanting, that it is lifting yourself above the thoughts of the mind, until they discover that and share what is called the 1,000 years, that which is one and nothingness, and that to the 12 aspects of the body, until they find that out and enter in, they will never rise above that which is death unto life. It cannot be done because everything else is the carnal mind. And so it says the rest of the dead lived not again until the 1,000 years were finished. Every human being who will ever set foot on this planet Earth one day will have to learn that they have to do the 1,000 years. They have to go with God into nothingness, into the 12 aspects of their body. Or they'll never experience that resurrection. Revelation 26, blessed and holy, free from stain is he that has part in the first resurrection. I'll go to the rest of that next week. You rise from the dead. Let me show you here. And this is the last one. Page 181 in your little Bibles. The rest of you to the book of Ephesians. Okay? Ephesians, page 181 in your little Bible. Ephesians chapter 5. Okay? That's Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 14. What's it say? Come on. Awake, you that sleeps, and arise from the dead, and Christ shall give you light. Now, what did Jesus say in Matthew 6:22, and you don't have to go there? If your eye be single, your body will fill with light. That's the resurrection from the dead. The resurrection from the dead is the rapture that so many of them talk about, but yet are afraid to experience, which is the lifting, arising from sleeping, from having our eyes closed. As Jesus said, they look and look but don't see. They listen and listen but they don't hear. Rising from that up into the blessed bliss of absolute nothingness, which Buddha called nirvana. When that occurs, the first resurrection has occurred. But keep that in your mind. Before a person does that, according to that which is God's witness, that person is dead. And that person will never live again until finally they take it upon themselves to obey Jesus, obey Buddha, obey Krishna, obey Zoroaster, and lift themselves into the bliss of the higher mind. God, eternal nothingness to the 12 aspects of the human psyche. When that occurs, you are into the first resurrection. Salvation is yours. But until that, you're dead. You're dead. And you know, it makes so much sense because the Apostle Paul said, the carnal mind is not subject to the law of God, neither indeed can it be. So how can you obey the law of God if you dwell in the mind? You can't. But as soon as you lift yourself and allow yourself to go into the higher mind, you raise yourself above the carnal mind, and there you experience life. Pretty good stuff. We hit on some pretty good stuff. My friends out there, thank you very, very much for sharing these things with us.